I love you guys. Thank you so much. You're the best. Again, like usual. Hi, everybody. All right, so let's get started right away so we don't waste a moment of the benefit of having these wonderful young men coming in to help us out today. So as promised in the class, it's called Intro to New Media. I did my best to secure a guest lecturer to come in. And today we have the benefit of having two of the world's best magicians coming in to talk to you about what it was like to pivot in their industry, because they had just created a magic facility, a magic theater right outside the city of Philadelphia. They bought a facility and renovated it, and throughout the whole entire lives, they were doing professional level magic across the world. And in this particular case, they decided to go into partnership and buy this place and renovate it and offer magic like you'd see in Europe, which was a theatrical experience, kind of like we have here in class. With a specialized seating and just a beautiful facility. In March of 2020, COVID took its grip on the world and they were told they had to shut down. So they did a pivot and try to figure out how they could still offer magic to the public by offering video live streaming tech to the public. So with this, with a little bit of relationship building I have with a friend of theirs, I went over there and formed a bond with these guys, two of the nicest people I know, and tried to help them figure out their online personality and what it means to hook up cameras and do live entertainment, but do it virtually. So they're here today to give you a little insight of what it means for them to have done that pivot as a business and venture out into a brand new world of a new technology they never expected to have to engage in. But now they're taking advantage of it at a different level too, because now they're having live entertainment again, which is cool. And they're also still able to offer that live streaming technology. So I'd like to introduce you in no order. I will do it in first name order because of appropriate alphabetical. We've got Danny Archer at the top, and then we've got Marty Martin at the bottom. Again, these guys are partners in this business. They both own Smoke and Mirrors Magic Theater. And I've got the website briefly up on the screen here, guys. So it's blocking me for a moment. They basically have a site dedicated to, you can buy tickets online, you can buy virtual tickets online, and you can go see their shows. And yes, to answer the bigger questions, magic is 100% real. That's the biggest answer, right? And secondly, they know all the big magicians in the world. So if you have anybody you want to talk to them about, like Penn and Teller and those guys, these are the guys that know them too. It's a real big pleasure getting to know these guys, and I'm appreciative of them coming in to talk to you. So they're here for you today. So if you have any questions regarding what it means for them as a business, again, to pivot and go in a new direction, using new technologies to help them tell their stories and help them communicate with the world, that's why they're here. Okay, so I'll hand this over. If you guys want to tell your story, these are the students of York College of Pennsylvania, and I'm appreciative. Why don't you guys give them, guys, a round of applause. Thank you, Martin. Thank you, Danny. It's yours.
Craig, I think you just told our story. But we'll back up just a little bit, make it brief. My name's Danny. Thanks for watching, everyone. Marty on the other side is my business partner. And about 6 years ago, I was performing. I've been a magician for 30 years. Marty's been a magician for longer than that. And I was in California, and the business deal I was working on didn't work out. I had to move, and I moved back to Philadelphia. I looked up Marty, my old partner, and we were talking, and I had told him about, I had been performing in Germany, and there were all these little boutique magic theaters around. And I said, I think it would be cool to open up a magic theater. And Marty says, let's me and you do it. And about a year from that day, that conversation, we found the Smoke and Mirrors Magic Theater. I'm in the theater now. You can't really get an idea, but you can see the seats are all tiered. It's built in like an amphitheater style. It's unlike any other theater in the United States. So this was the first one to be built in this sort of European style in the United States. And it took about, about a year to get it done?
Yeah, not quite a year. It was about maybe 10 months. But the paint was still drying when we opened the door. So
literally the day,
it was an adventure.
The day before we opened, we had a situation with our railings where our railings were somehow not up to code. And Marty luckily had a friend that was in the metal business, and these guys worked all night long to try to get these things right. So literally, we had a full 3 sold out shows the first weekend, and not knowing, are we going to be able to do the shows? But luckily, it worked out.
Yeah, when we started this venture, the thing you should know is that we were only doing live shows. There was no cameras. It was one of our plans to eventually have cameras available. But in the beginning, it was strictly live shows. And as Craig stated, what happened was COVID. Now, COVID devastated most businesses, and we had to react to that because now our doors were closed. No people were allowed in the building, and live entertainment was done.
For a year and a half.
We were closed for a year and a half. But during that time, we had to adapt. And unlike Zoom meetings that you're on now, we needed a secure way to broadcast Magic live, right, and remote. But on Zoom, the problem with Zoom and some of the other platforms is they're not secure. So if you have a code to enter a Zoom meeting, you can share that with 100 other people and they can all join that Zoom meeting. They also don't take payments. So if we had to take a payment, sorry about that, I get people calling me all day long. If we had to take payments from people, it would have had to be calling us individually, going to PayPal, and doing all sorts of finagling to get the money for the show. And then they would be able to give that code to somebody else. So we found a very secure setup called Uscreen TV. And they do big conventions and music events and theaters. And they were the best fit for us. With Craig's help, we were able to purchase the correct switching equipment. And you can ask us a million questions about this stuff, but basically he guided us in the correct direction for what type of cameras did we need. So we wound up with pan, tilt, and zoom cameras. We needed multiple cameras. So we have 4 cameras, but we only utilize 3 of them currently. So we have 3 pan, tilt, and zoom cameras. And those cameras connect through a secure network where when you purchase a ticket, you are the only one that can use that code. If you give it to somebody else, you would not have the ability to watch that show. So from a business perspective, this was the best way to continue to make money and have a secure network at the same time. We also didn't want interrupted video. So CDNs are connected dynamic networks that have towers around the world. And because of that, we can keep a full HD 60 frames per second stream of our live shows. So it's almost as good as if you were there. It's not the same, of course, feeling and emotion of a live show, but we wanted to give the audience the best possible event that we could. Anything else you want to add, Dan?
Yeah, one of the things to talk about briefly is the difference between watching an event live and watching the event streamed and then watching a hybrid. So most people are familiar with obviously watching it live. You're in the theater in one of our 60 seats. It's a 60-seat custom-built theater and you're watching the show live. Or the possibility is that right now, if I was performing, you're watching the show, then you're watching it there. But what we do is different, and we are, I believe, the only theater in America that's doing this. Is we are doing a hybrid show, meaning there's a live audience watching here in the theater, there's people watching around the world. And that makes a difference because magic by its very nature does not work if you're watching it on TV. In my opinion, it does not work. And the reason why is right now, if I was on Penn and Teller and you're watching me and I'm doing a trick, you don't know, is there someone right over there off screen that you can't see that's going to give me something, take something, tell me something, or aid me in some way? If I had something secretly hidden in my hand, if I go like this, I could just drop it on a pillow where it wouldn't make a noise. So all these doubts are in the minds of an audience. And magic is already an art form. We're asking people, bring your disbelief. We're telling you, we can't do it. We're going to fool you. So we're already challenging the audience. watching it on a screen only makes those challenges a lot greater. But what we realize is that the fact that we were able to tell the audience, the on-screen audience, hey, you're watching the show the same time, here's our audience. We could show them, here's the audience right there. So they know no one is helping me or aiding me in any way. So this way it makes the experience better for the viewer than if you were just watching a magic on TV, in my opinion.
Yeah, the other thing that occurs is that if you look at our theater, you will see that the very first row of our theater is the stage. So the first row, that's the first row, and that table is where the performer could be. So the audience and the first row realize that there are no trapdoors. Yeah, there's no trapdoors, no secret passageways. There's everything that we do is the pure art of magic. And for those of you that are taking this course, just know that there's many avenues that you can go. And during these critical times for all of us, many businesses went out of business because of COVID. But when you folks go into business, when you get through this class and decide how you want to utilize this information, just realize that there are many ways that you can go. So even though we shoot the show live and it's streaming live around the world, there's different time zones. So some of those people can't watch it at the exact time we're airing it, but they can watch it as a video on demand after the fact. So each show that we have, we stream, we record in 2 or 3 different methodologies to hard drives and directly to our encoding box. And then we can take that and post it on a storefront where we can now have 50, 60 different magic shows throughout the year that you can come in and rent for 48 hours, just like you do on HBO or any TV, Fire Stick, where you rent a program for that amount of time. So just consider when you have a large investment, if you invest, $500,000 or more into a business and somebody tells you you have to shut your doors, always think outside of the box. And Craig will help you to think like that, because without his help, we never would have been able to launch this. I mean, he came in and he wired everything for us. He showed us how to do color corrections. And I run the booth and the videos. Even though Danny and I are both magicians, one of us had to make a decision to say, okay, I'm willing to go up in the booth and handle all the video aspects of what we're going to do. So I took on that chore, and it wasn't easy. I mean, I had to learn everything about the system, how to load in a show, how to do all the descriptions for the show, how to enter the pictures and videos for that show, and then how to run the switcher, the cameras, the pan, tilt, and zooms, how to record everything, how to make sure that everything runs perfectly. And again, I guess it's okay to call him Craig. I don't know what you guys in school call him, but Craig was the person that made it possible for us to do that. And anyone sitting in this room, if you take what we're saying lightly, if you have the money and you decide to go into a business, it's always about 50% to 80% more work than you will ever expect. Okay. People think because we're magicians and we have a magic theater and we hire performers from around the world and we hire the best magicians in the world, and you see them on AGT, Penn and Teller Fool Us, Masters of Illusion. You see them if you were in Las Vegas, you would see them in the Las Vegas big shows, the lounge acts. They work on the cruise ships. They work for Disney. These are the people we bring to our theater each and every weekend. We have a brand new show. So when you think about your business, think about how all of those things will come together for your business. Even if it's just a streaming business, or you're going to be some IT guy, or you're going to go into television, everything is a tremendous amount of work, from advertising, promoting, getting people to come to your theater. How do you get them to come to your theater? Why should they come to your theater? Anything else, Stan, you want to add into
Yeah, you
that?
know what? I think, Craig, it might be a good time, because we're talking, but we want to make sure that we're answering the questions that people have. So let's throw it open to some questions, and we'll see if we can provide some answers.
I appreciate that, Danny. Thank you again, Marty. Boy, what a great start for the day. I'm showing them on our projector screen, by the way, some of the technology you're mentioning. So while you're doing your presentation up on our projector, I'm dragging over some media so they see your website. They saw some of the switcher tech, so they're getting some ideas.
Okay.
So we talked a few weeks ago about magic, technology that's far in advance being indistinguishable from magic. And it's so good to have you guys in here to help resolve that. This is an example of the switcher these guys had to buy. This is excluding the cameras. So just one piece of tech was nearly $6,000 or $7,000. The camera systems, the wiring, easily these two guys went into debt for about $25,000 just to go out and do one specific new thing, right? So it was a big deal. It puts people like me and you, and it puts us out of business, right? Because you just can't afford to be there anymore. So I'm so happy I was able to be here to help them, and I'm appreciative of their friendship and their help for me as well. They've been very kind souls. So you guys have any questions for what it's like for a business? Remember, they're a business first. Their business is offering live entertainment, so they're a business first, and they got challenged. So what are some of your thoughts on what it means to communicate with the world? Do you have any questions about the age groups of people that come to watch their shows? Are they catering more to people who are millennials or people that are Generation Xers? Do you have a question on how they go out and communicate and sell their shows? Are they doing more Facebook or direct email and using Instagram? I mean, anybody have any thoughts on those issues? You can talk directly to them. Okay, let's go. Here's the microphone.
Are there any shows in particular that you just don't allow for like younger ages, like anything below the age of like 15?
Yeah.
Yes.
We have an age limit on our shows. We do two types of shows. One show we do is billed as a family show. We tell that's appropriate from anyone from age 6 to 106. And we do those shows usually on a Saturday afternoon at 1 o'clock. In the evening, we will do our shows for adult audiences. And by adult audiences, we have an age limit on it of 13 and above. Not because these shows are risque. We do have 1 or 2 performers that do have adult material, and those shows we clearly label on our website, 18 and up adult material, will be used. So we try to make it very clear. But the reason we have the age limit in the evening is what we don't want is for a guy and his girl to go out for dinner, get a ticket to the theater, come down and see they're sitting next to a 6-year-old. They don't want that. We don't want that. So while the material now, you don't have to worry in the evening show that you're addressing the material that you're performing doesn't have to include the fact that there might be a 6-year-old in the audience. So it makes for a different show. Anything to add, Mark?
No, but if you do have questions, you can ask us questions that may relate to the type of business you're thinking about getting into, because business in general is a very difficult thing. From just the build of our theater, all the limitations of what we required. We required 20-foot ceilings. So we had to find a building with 20-foot ceilings. When you go into business, you have to think about, if you're working for yourself, what are the requirements that you need to make that business work and to make it efficient in the way you dreamed about it. So Danny and I had an image, but if we showed you photos of the beginning of our theater and how it came about, it was an arduous task. I mean, it was just so overwhelming, from just every board that had to be put in a specific way. Our ceiling in the main theater, we have 2 theaters in the building, but the ceiling in the main theater had to be tiered all the way up to 20 feet, but it couldn't be a straight slope or we wouldn't have been able to have the proper lighting and everything. So everything about it was complicated. And when you go into business for yourself, or even when you work for someone else, you always want to think about, how are you going to benefit your employer, right? What do you bring to the table? And trust me, the class you're in, you may think everything we're saying doesn't mean much, but when you get out into the business world and have to go find that job to do what you want to do, the help that Craig is giving you is essential. And it's it's important too, because whether it's Craig or somebody else teaching you this, it's a lot to learn. It's not just a matter of pushing a button and saying, okay, everything's fine. That's why when you see camera crews for a football game, there's cameras everywhere. There's a million pieces of technology that are being set up. And even though we're a smaller scale, this is the field that it looks like you're going into, whether it be television, broadcasting, IT, or whatever it might be. Just don't take it with a grain of salt. He's giving out very, very good information that in most cases, people are paying tens of thousands of dollars for to get that information, to sit down with them and learn how to do all this stuff. Any other questions?
That was a very good question about the age group limitations. Guys, yes?
What funded, I guess, the opening of the theater?
What funded it? Is that the question?
Correct, yeah, like any prior business.
Where'd you get your money from?
Right.
How did you come up with how did you
Yeah,
come up with your original game plan? Where did you get a personal loan? Did you finance against a house? Did you have 401k put away? What did you do?
We invested our own money into the theater. So we were both working magicians for years, and we could have went out and went to the bank and said, hey, we need X amount of dollars, but we chose to invest most of our own money in it. We did have two other people that put in small amounts of money to become part of the theater as far as an investment for them, but that wasn't the bulk of the money. The bulk of the money was put in by myself and Danny. You can't always do it that way. And again, when you look at the business model, we had to create a model and say, okay, what is our worst case scenario? So at first we said, here's how many seats we have. Here's the ticket price that we think we can sell a ticket for. And if we were only to sell 50% of our target, which is selling out, if we were to sell 50% of our target, can we still survive? The next thing is you have to negotiate your lease so that it affords that business model to go on. So we have a 10-year lease with a 10-year option. We chose not to buy a building because we didn't want all the headaches of maintenance and all that stuff. But a 20-year lease, I'm an older guy, so 20 years from now, I'm probably going to be dead. So it doesn't matter. So that's enough time for me to, have that lease out there. But as far as your business is concerned, you want to look at your lease and say, okay, how long am I going to be in business? How much money does it cost me to be there? And how much do I have to make just to pay the bills? What do you want to add, Dan?
Yeah, that's basically it. We self-funded the business. There are several theaters across the United States. One of the interesting things that happened is when we started working on the idea, because I traveled around and performed a lot, I've performed at many of the other theaters, forget around the world, just talk about in America, many of the other theaters in America. And I started to think to myself, I wonder how many magic theaters are out there. So thanks to the internet and Google, I was able to start Googling a little bit, and I started contacting these people. So now we put together a group of people. There's about 70 theaters in North America. So we didn't even include the rest of the world just because of time zone and language and currency like that. But there's about 70 theaters in North America, and we have a group that we put together so we all talk about issues that would be of no interest at all to anyone unless you owned a small magic theater and are doing what we do. But yeah, so we were definitely self-funded. So is there another question?
Some other thoughts? So one of the questions about your age group, who do you think your demographic is at this point? And are you able to use this new technology of live streaming for the demographic that would traditionally be coming in? In other words, were you always selling to traditionally people over 35 or 40? They were your main audience, as an example. Maybe they'd bring in their kids for an afternoon affair, like an afternoon kid show, but traditionally you were selling out the big Thursday nights, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday nights. And now when you went to your online personality with your online video, did that mean that those same audiences came with the online video, or did you find out that you found a whole new audience? What was going on with who your traditional client was versus?
That's, yeah, that's twofold, Craig. Number one, we don't know who's going to watch on the virtual show. So our original audience was much older than we had anticipated. And we only anticipated people to come to our theater with a couple million people in our zone. We anticipated people might come maybe twice a year. But we found out that once they came, they really enjoyed it so much. And because the show changed every week, we have people that come 30 times a year. Some come even more than that. So we have some regulars that come in. But the age dynamic when COVID hit dramatically changed when we reopened after COVID. So let's say we were more in the 40-year-old, 40 and older for our evening shows. And of course, family shows were all ages. But after COVID stopped, okay, as far as having to do only streaming shows, our entire demographic changed. We don't know why, but we do know that it's now, you know, everything from the teens to the 30s and all the way up from there. So we really are covering every age group in our demographic.
You know, I think part of it is our Facebook and Instagram. We took on a new person that handles our digital media, and I think that's made the change. But Marty's right. Our demographic used to be older in the beginning, because at the beginning of every show, the MC would ask, how many people are here for the very first time? And it used to be, you know, 20% of the people here for the first time. Now it's 85% are here for the first time. So we realized that some of our existing base, because we know some of these people, we hadn't seen them in a year and a half, but we did see some of them come back, but not all of them. Some people are still hesitant and resistant right now to go and sit in a small theater, because this is not, you know, like a movie theater where you could be 10 rows away from that person. You know, you can isolate if you're nervous. Here, we can't change our seats. Our seats are literally, you know, right next to each other, just like that. So if you come to the theater, that's the seating that you're going to have to deal with. But that also then is the option for more people to stream the show. We had a show recently where we had people from like 9 different countries were watching the performer. So one of the key things is, how do you get this word out to people that realize that, oh, this is cool and that's something to do. And that is a challenge, because if you have a product and you're selling it, like we have a product, we had a magic theater, and who do we want to come to our magic theater? Well, anyone could come, but do I expect a guy from Alaska to come? No, it's too far away. Is a guy from Paris going to come? Too far away. So our target area was, you know, 10-mile or 12-mile radius of our theater. That's who we tried to concern ourselves. Well, once you have a product that can be viewed by anybody in the world, that becomes really challenging, because for a couple of reasons. One, you're now competing with every other. So now I'm competing with Lady Gaga's streaming show, or whoever is doing something big. I'm competing with them. Before, I was only competing with the physical people that were in my 10-mile zone. Yeah, I was competing with the bar and maybe the bowling alley and the movie theater, the legitimate theater. So they were my competition. But now I'm competing with every rock band, every comedian, every magic. So your competition is a lot wider. There's more people, but there's more streaming opportunities. So that made it really interesting. And we go after the regular Joe American that might want to see something different. But more and more, we're starting to realize that magicians are people that already like the product that we have to offer. So we are trying to now target into them a little bit more, because here's a group of people that already have an interest in magic. And at the right price with the right entertainment, we are starting to get some traction now by marketing to a group that already likes and enjoys our product.
Yeah, let's transition into something else. That when the gentleman asked about financing, and the other people asked about the age groups, in the back of your mind, you probably each have a question, but maybe you're afraid to ask it or don't care to ask it at this time. But we had to transition another part of our business, which was Danny had created an entity called Mindvention. And that was for mind readers and mentalists and people that do ESP type things, psychic phenomena and stuff like that. And that event was held in Las Vegas for many years. During COVID, we had a transition to say, okay, how can we create this same phenomena of all these magicians from around the world, instead of having to fly to Las Vegas, be held up in a hotel there and do everything, you know, dealing with the unions and the cameramen there and all the stuff there. How do we do this virtually? So we teamed up with people in England, Italy, and then we had people stateside in Texas and one other state. And we teamed up with them to be a group that could handle this convention virtually. And how many countries were represented? We just did it recently and we had over
23
300
countries.
viewers.
I think over 23.
23
countries.
did?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we had 23 different countries involved in it with 30 different performers. And we had to worry about the dynamic of the internet. Now, even though we had the best conditions, the best equipment, not every performer had that same commodity that we had, because we had a guy in Israel, we had a guy in South Africa, we had a guy in England, we had performers from all over the world. So when you think about doing a show or an event or whatever it may be, we had to have backup contingencies for everything. So if somebody's power went out during his live performance, okay, we automatically went to video of a pre-recorded event so that there was no loss of anything else for the people that were watching around the world. Also, each show was streamed and recorded so that anyone that couldn't watch it on the time zone had a week after that to watch any and all of these. How many total events were there? 30, 40?
Yeah, about that.
Yeah, so between Danny and our team, we figured out a way to handle all of the problems or most of the problems that could occur. We did have someone whose power went out. We had a time when we lost power in our building, right? But the guys in Italy, the guys in England, the guy in Texas, everybody, they took over till that, you know, those cameras or those powers came back to be. You want to add anything to that, Dan?
Hey, that was really, it was a convention that used to happen live in Las Vegas. People would come, meet each other, greet each other. So we tried to take that experience and put it online, and we were successful. We've done it twice. I hope we don't have to do it again. I hope we'll be able to get back to doing it live.
We've done it
at
twice
some point.
virtually, but
we have now learned that some of the people that have attended this thing are asking us, please keep doing it virtually, because a lot of people don't have the financial wherewithal to, you know, fly from India, come to Las Vegas for 4 days, and you want to stay an extra couple of days and you need to eat. And so it's an expensive thing to do, but they're able to take a day off or 2 days off from work and just watch the convention as it happens live. One of the other interesting things we did is we utilized Facebook to have a social aspect to it. So that was where the hangout room was. So you could log into this private group and discuss, hey, we just watched Joe's show and how wasn't it great that he did this? And what did you think? And they could talk, share videos, pictures. So that was another idea of having to, you know, pivot because of the pandemic and say, you know, what can't we do? Well, how can we do it? And that's basically the nature of what magicians do. I tell people all the time when I talk to business groups that magicians, we're problem solvers. That's what we do. Our job is to figure out, how do we get this signed card into that orange that he's been holding in the audience the whole time? And we figure out a way to do it. We figure out sometimes 10 ways to do it and then say, what's the best way to do it? So that's what magicians do. We are problem solvers. So if we have another question, bring it on, we'll solve it.
So you talked about people flying to come see shows? What did it look like trying to get, or what's it look like trying to get performers? Like, do you guys contract people, or do you pay them per show? How does that work?
We have what we do, right? Again, that changed because of COVID. Before COVID, magicians, there's guys that are, you know, God bless them, they're out on the road doing this. And now because of the fact that there's all kinds of theaters and venues that guys travel a little more. So we became a known commodity. At first, when we first opened up, a couple of guys worked here. They said, oh my God, this place rocks. They pay you well. The place is really awesome. So word got out, and now we are definitely in demand. The best of the best want to work here. When COVID hit, things got a little bit crazy. People obviously for a long time were not traveling. Even today, people are not traveling at the extent they used to be. Luckily, when we decided to put the theater here, geographically, you could have not put the theater in a better area than the Philadelphia area, because the bulk of the US population lives between Boston and Washington, DC. That's where most of the people live. That means most of the magicians live there. So there are incredible wealth of talent that live between Washington and DC. So even when things got tough, that's drivable. You don't have to get in a car and fly. You know, Boston's 5 hours, Washington's less than that. So there was a really good pool of talent of people that were in the drivable zone. So we've been able to go in, because when we say we bring in talent, we've had guys from Japan, from Norway, from Spain, from Argentina, because like magicians will come in to perform, you know, maybe a private gig. They're doing a private gig in Las Vegas. While they're in the country, oh, maybe I'll stop and do a couple of days at this theater, at this theater. So we're able to get some really top talent. And that's one of the other interesting things about our business, is that we're selling a product that you don't know. Like most people, if they want to hear music, they say, I want to go hear this band. I want to go hear the Rolling Stones, whoever it is they want to hear. People come to our website. If you go to our website right now and look at the website, you'll say, I don't know him. I don't know him. I don't know her. I don't know. You don't know these people, but these are the people we have, and they are great. But we're asking people to make a purchase for something that they're not really sure about. So what happens to us is we become like the good housekeeping seal. After people have seen one or two shows, they realize, oh, it doesn't make a difference that we know their shows are great. And that's something that we hear all the time on our reviews on social media.
Yeah, let me answer the question about the finance. Each theater around the country, whether it be the Magic Castle, Chicago Magic Lounge, House of Cards in Nashville. Now, the two that I just mentioned, Chicago Magic Lounge, when you talk about financing, Chicago Magic Lounge had an investor that put up $2 to $3 million to build their facility. The one in Nashville, it was closer to $15 million to build the facility. Now, they also have restaurants associated with them and drinking and all of that. We have a bring your own bottle for those of age. So we don't have a restaurant. We chose not to be in the restaurant business. But as far as paying the performers, each theater pays differently. Some pay a flat fee. So you might be doing X amount of shows for X amount of dollars. We pay a percentage of the gate. So we pay a percentage of the ticket sales to the performer. We also feed them, and they, you know, hotel room and all that stuff. But we do not pay their transportation. But if someone's coming in, like Danny said, if someone's coming into California and he wants to work his way around the country, we can put him in touch with all the other theater owners so he can book a tour where he works A to Z and all the way back around to California again, and then flies home or flies home from his last location. So you have, again, you have to think outside the box as to what's best for the performer, what's best for you being profitable in your business, and what business model. And we're changing all the time. We started paying at a much higher rate than we are now because COVID made it impossible for us to pay what we were paying, only because not as many people were traveling and not as many people were coming to the theater once we reopened. Now, we assume that 6 months from now, hopefully things will be back to normal and everybody will start making money again.
Well, Marty, Danny, if I may, Could you talk about what it was like to transition from being kind of normal, everyday business operators to somebody who had to become a technology head, somebody who had to worry about the tech up on the wall, the wiring in the ceiling, the buying of a new device, the now transmitting your signal across the world? What did it mean for you to go from who you were and turn into the superhero of tech?
Well, at different times of our lives, I started in magic very young. So I was about 12 years old when I started in magic. And later in life, I had a touring show. I had lots of people that worked for me, and I did hundreds of shows a year. I specialized in corporate magic and creating magic for corporations. And Danny started later in life, but he's performed in 35 countries around the world. He was the house magician, like I was the house magician for Caesar's Palace, for the casinos, for the high rollers. Danny worked at 2 of the top ski resorts in Colorado. So he was out there working 6 days a week in these high-end ski resorts in Colorado. At the same time, when he had time off, he was lecturing across the country. He created a lecture network where he sent out other magicians to perform for other magicians. And all of that is what culminated into saying, hey, we're tired of running around the universe. We're tired of dragging equipment around. Let's build our own theater and just do it there.
What about Mark
So-
getting started with the equipment? That's your area
Well,
because you ran that, not me. You still run that.
From a tech standpoint, that was a monumental task for both of us. So I had to stop everything I was doing and say, okay, today I have to learn how to use this $10,000 switcher, right? And I have to learn everything about all this wiring and rewiring our entire theater to accommodate that. And all of the problems that go along with it. So the lighting had to be changed. We just upgraded our lighting again. We had to add additional lights to get better video because cameras need light. They thrive that light. And I learned that from you, Craig. So
Yep.
we had to add more lighting to it. Sound is very important. So we just added 2 microphones where we don't use wireless mics or anything. All of our microphones at the theater are embedded in the ceiling. So we added 2 additional mics. So we now have 4 mics strategically located in our ceiling to get better sound. Now, is it perfect? Not yet. I'm now learning how to utilize this new technology to make it perfect. And we keep tweaking it and tweaking it. But there's a lot to it, guys. If you're going to be in this business, if you're going to be in the lighting and tech business, there's just so many things that we've been doing it now for a couple of years. And I continually have to learn what's new, how to utilize it, and how to make the best possible event for our viewing audience. And I'm not there yet. I mean, I'm every show we do, I learn something new about it. And scripting and knowing what the performer, like if Danny's performing at the theater, I know everything Danny's going to do because I've seen him so many times. But a new performer comes in, I tell him, don't cross this line because you make it difficult. And they're just creatures of habit and not accustomed to working in amphitheater like ours. And they walk way out of camera range. So even though I can switch cameras, I wasn't prepared for it. So I always like to talk to the performers ahead of time. Your students of television and streaming and everything you're learning from Craig, it's always best if you have the time, know what the performers are going to do, know where you have to switch A to B to C, what camera is going to be viewing at this time. I mean, you watch a football game, it looks so flawless, right? But there are hundreds of cameras and hundreds of people watching monitors and switching and technicians screaming out stuff for each guy to do for the next shot of what's going on. Ours is a very small scale of that, but still for guys that are just magicians, I mean, that's what we really are at heart. We are magicians. This task was overwhelming at first, but now, as I say, as you learn, you get better at it each and every day.
Got a quick, to point out to Marty's point, I never forget one time I'm at, there's something called FISM. It's the Olympics of Magic. It happens every 3 years. And this year it's happening in Stockholm. And I'm sitting with a buddy of mine and we're watching one of the competitions. So magicians are performing and judges are judging them. And my buddy says to me, the camera work is horrible. And I said to him, I know why. He said, why? I said, those are real people. They're not magicians. They are watching and they're like, what the hell's going on? And during the break, I go over and I talk to the cameraman. I said, yep, they're all just regular guys. I said, they needed to have magicians being the cameraman that are going to know, oh, you're going to do this or do that. So it can be a challenge.
There's certainly a pacing to that. There's certainly a pacing. Before I hand it back over to this class, I may have worded my question a little awkwardly, so I'm going to try it a little bit of a different way. As of right now, what do you feel like your main communication method is with your audience? Are you, as you use the internet, are you doing mass mailings? Are you using Twitter and Instagram and Facebook? Where do you feel like your best level of communication with the clients are? And did you ever think you'd have to worry about this? I know that you have the marketing person working with you. What kind of things did that person bring to the table, and how that changed your business a little bit?
The hardest thing that we do, and I'll let Danny talk more about the marketing guys and people, but the hardest thing that we do is, how do you get people to come to the theater? As Danny stated, our opening line is that we bring you the best performers in the world that you never heard of. Because if I ask your class to name a magician, they're going to name David Blaine, David Copperfield, Penn and Teller, and Houdini, right? And maybe Chris Angel. And those are the guys that everybody knows. But the true art of magic, the guys that create the magic for David Blaine, performs at our theater. The guys that create stuff for David Copperfield perform at our theater. So the creative minds behind all the magic are the people you don't know. And how do you market that? Everybody knows, as Danny says, everybody knows what a pizza is. So it's either good pizza or bad pizza. People don't wake up in the morning and say, hey, let's go to a magic theater, hon. What would you like to do for the weekend? Let's go to a magic theater. They never heard of a magic theater. So marketing, we've been on all the networks, television shows. We've been on radio. We do extensive internet advertising. I'll let Danny talk about the types we do. And we are out there each and every day. Your students here, probably, they're always on social media. But what are they looking for? How would they market their business? How would they get people to come to their pizza parlor instead of the other pizza parlor, right? Why? What makes you so special? And that's what we have to do. We have to create this monster between calendars, event calendars. We're on 30 different event calendars within our 20, 30 mile radius. We are all over the internet doing that. And we are constantly looking for ways to get the people in your class to come to a show. Because if they came out to one, they would have such a great time, but they wouldn't necessarily think about it right off the bat. Because when people think of magic, unfortunately, there's a stigma. There's two types. There's Bozo the clown that has a little clown nose on and blows up balloons for kids, right? That's what people think. When you say, oh, what does your dad do for a living? Oh, he's a magician. Oh, my kids would love him, right? Or her. Well, I've never performed a kids show. I have only performed for corporations and things like that. So it's very difficult to get across to the public what we do and how we do it. Just add to that, Dan, and talk about Davron and all the stuff that we do on
All right.
social media.
So the ways we connect with our customers or attempt to are several. One is social media, meaning primarily Facebook and Instagram. So we have a guy, Davron, that is our social media manager, and we blast out information on a regular basis. But that's, again, the problem. The good and the bad of it anymore is that you could just start spending advertising dollars and go with Alignable, and there's Patch, and there's Nextdoor, and there's LinkedIn, and there's this one and that one. It's just a never ending process. So you have to just find what you can do. There's a limit you were able to do. And we have someone else that works for us. We have someone that's our corporate salesperson, and she helps do some of these things as well. The other thing we do is we maintain a mailing list. So when you buy a ticket to the show, we have your email, and we have put together a newsletter that we send out on a weekly basis that basically says, hey, here's coming up for the show. Here's a picture of the guy. Here's a video of the guy. Here's the dates, this to that. So we have a newsletter that we send out on a regular basis. We market the show. The best way is nothing equals word of mouth. Word of mouth, buzz marketing, whatever you want to term you want to use for it, is by far the greatest thing. I mean, you can see an ad for the movie, it's okay, but if your buddy comes to them and says, did you see the new Batman movie? It was incredible. You had to go. Nothing beats the excitement of that person. So that's a good thing for us, is the people that, you know, if you have a job, if you're at a water cooler, what'd you do last night? Oh my God, we went to this thing and a guy did this and the bill ended up in. Nothing will beat that type of excitement. So we try to utilize. The other interesting thing, as Marty mentioned, is we are the only Magic Theater in 60-mile radius, probably more, but let's just say 60 miles. That sounds like, wow, that's good. You're the only one that does what you do. Right. But how do people know you're the only one? People, as Marty said, don't get up and say, I wonder what's going on in the Magic Theaters, because people don't even realize that there is a Magic Theater. So the good and the bad for us is we have to let the people know, here's what we do, and then here's where we are, and we do that. So that's a really interesting thing of thinking that you're the only business of your type. Like I go to networking events. Sometimes at networking events, I meet 3 real estate guys in a row. What do you do? Oh, real estate, insurance.
Yep.
That they never meet multiple Magic Theater owners. So we're the only ones that do what we do. Craig?
Yeah, that's absolutely true. When you go to networking events for a BNI or Latips or a Chamber of Commerce, and you're never going to meet anybody that has anything similar to what you guys are doing.
Correct.
So it's you know, your transition, you know, I'm not too far behind you guys. I think I'm a year or 2 younger than you. So the truth is that, you know, us older people, could be technologically challenged. What kind of challenges did you guys face when you had to do this transition, this pivot? What was the biggest thing? Because I'm absolutely sure you didn't expect to have to worry about opening a theater with brick and mortar and hiring talent and paying them for their time to entertain your audience, and then have to go transition over to be a television company. What was the biggest challenge you had technologically?
Getting customers to buy a ticket to a virtual show.
Well, he said
So that's-
technologically. So technologically, what was everything that Craig did for us, you know, helping find, because a lot of people, and you might not even realize it right now. Let me hold the camera up again. I don't know if you can. There's nowhere, normally a camera guy would shoot over the back of the audience. The back of the audience, that's the floor up there is 7 feet off the ground. The cameras are on the wall. So all of our cameras that we're talking about are robotic cameras. So we had to figure out a way to find a camera system that would work, that would be installed, that would be able to shoot the show, that would not interfere in any way with the enjoyment of the live people by making noise or reflections or anything that wouldn't afford them, that we could do, that we could stream, that we could do this, that we could do what we could afford. So that was a technological, that took months and months of playing around. And again, Craig was instrumental, and Marty was key on our team to get that accomplished, to finally make it work, and work it does. And it's another reason why the acts like to come here, because they know they're going to get a really good video footage of their show. We just give it to them. We don't charge them for it. The Magic Castle, you want to videotape your act, they charge you money to bring in a guy that will shoot your act. So, but that was the biggest challenge, was figuring out all that stuff. And like Marty said, we've changed the lighting, we've changed our sound, all with the goal to make the virtual ticket better, because we believe that the virtual show is going to continue. And for us, the reason why is I'm looking right at seat A5, right there is seat A5. A5 is where Frank sits. Frank is what we call a super customer. Frank comes to the theater. We do shows probably 50 weeks a year. Frank is probably at the shows 38 to 40 weeks a year. Would you agree, Marty? Between the family
Yes,
shows
at
and the
least.
regular shows. Frank comes a lot. So Frank is what we call the super customer. So what we realized is there's other guys like Frank that really enjoy this type of entertainment that might live far away from a magic theater, because think about it. There's only maybe 60 magic theaters in the United States. So the chances that you live drivable to one is pretty remote for most people. So how can we find 59 other Franks? That's the goal. And we're starting to find it, because we can identify when someone buys a ticket. We can run analysis and see. Analytics is the word I was looking for. The analytics to see, oh, these people have watched 2 shows or 3 shows or 4 shows. So it's finding those other Franks, because the good thing about what we're doing is we're giving access to people that don't have access to watching a show live at a magic theater, because there is no show live at a magic theater. And if you watch it on a Zoom show, yeah, we just watched the Zoom show the other day. That was a very expensive show. It was really pretty neat, but watching the show, you definitely believe there's someone there helping this guy. There's maybe sneaky camera angles. There's this, there's that. There's suspicion in the mind of the audience. And people know when they're watching our show, it's happening live, like the Super Bowl. You know, it's not faked. It's not a fake moon landing. And no one is helping the performer. You know, I did a show here Saturday night. We had a room full of people. There was no doubt anyone in the audience that anyone was secretly aiding me. So that was our biggest challenge, was figuring out how to do it. And we got it done. We did it. And now continuing and to keep doing it better.
Let's go back to your classroom, Craig. And the people sitting there that I see, some may be interested in what we're saying, some may be disinterested in what we're saying, but what are their intentions? Where are they going with the knowledge that you're passing on to them? What are their expectations of what do I want to do after I graduate from this and I have all this knowledge? What do I do now? What are their intentions on making money, and do they have any thoughts about it?
Well, that's an open-ended question. Anybody want to jump in? Charles again?
I'm kind of going back. I guess I'm curving and not answering the question you just asked, but just back to the business idea and the expenses you guys have. I mean, what does your staff look like? And as far as like, you know, obviously you talk about equipment and then obviously hiring talent, but like, what does it look like, I guess, for like monthly payments and stuff like that you guys have to worry about? Is there a cleaning company, or is that something you guys have in-house, and people that work your events?
Well, that's really a great question for us. Now, the theaters and the bigger theaters that had millionaires behind them, they have a staff of people that clean and dust and do everything for them. If you come to our theater, it's immaculate. It is clean. Our bathrooms are usable in every aspect of the word. There's no trash. They're not dirty. Everything is crystal clear and clean because we keep it that way. But the people that do it are Danny and I. Okay. Now, I'm not saying we don't have help. We have a corporate salesperson, Cheryl, who helps us on the corporate end of it. We have other magicians and volunteers that help us with checking people in and ticketing. But as far as the bulwark is concerned, as far as cleaning up after a party, it's Danny and I. We're the owners. We're responsible for making sure that everything goes well. Now, if we were making millions of dollars, which we're not, right? If we were making millions of dollars, then you hire as many people as you want to clean and polish and keep everything shine. But we wipe every table down with these, you know, sanitary things for COVID. We wipe every railing down, and every seat gets vacuumed and the floors get vacuumed, and Swiffered and, sanitized after each and every event that we do. We take the trash out to the dumpsters. We create the shows. I create all the virtual shows. Danny creates all the physical live in theater shows. As far as booking the talent, I book probably 75% of the talent. Danny does probably 25% because he's doing other things. And each one of them requires a contract that goes along with it. How does it look contractually? How many shows is that performer doing? When is he arriving? Where is he staying? What are his likes, dislikes? Does he want any special food in the green room? Some performers have dietary things and things like that. But from the financial end of it, because we're a small business, right? We streamlined our model to say, okay, I don't mind working for a living, right? I don't mind doing all this other stuff. Sure, we'd love to have a crew do it, but don't ever think, unless you have a whole bunch of money behind you, maybe you're going to do a GoFundMe. And guys have done that. They do a GoFundMe and collect all the money and do what they want to do. You might have some wealthy investors that want to invest in you and your business and your thoughts and your ideas. But when you're taking the money out of your pocket and you have to pay $5,000 a month just for rent, and then when the gas bill comes in, and all of a sudden the price of natural gas went from $300 a month to $700 a month, okay, now what do you do? And electric, because of the, all the fracking and different rules that they have now electric has gone up. How many times do they flush the toilet? How much is your water bill? So exponentially, as everything continues to grow, you have to figure a way to balance that. Can you afford to raise your prices? Can you afford to gouge the customer? No, we don't want to do that. We want to make money, not lose money, obviously, and we want to do it in the most efficient way. So being in business, anybody that thinks it's easy, I don't know what your dads or your moms or your families or, if they're super wealthy or if they all have great businesses that you're just going to stroll into, and that's a great thing. But if you're going to go out there and work for a living, whether it be as a performer, which is extremely hard work, or if you're going to be a performer that's a businessman at the same time, like Danny and I are, it is everyday work, okay? Right now, while we're talking to this group, there's probably 50 emails that came in and a list of performers that want to perform. Each and every week, we get guys that have to be reviewed, right, and looked at. Do we stay on top of it? No, I don't stay on top of it, because with all the other things that we have going on, some of that gets pushed aside. But do we have the next 16 weeks up on the board? Yes. Do we have the next weekends? For the most part, but things will happen. Guys will cancel. Guy has to fly to Europe. Something happens. He gets sick. How do you cover all those angles? So from a technology standpoint, tech is probably the hardest thing that we had to do. We had to create it, we had to learn it, and we have to utilize it. Once you have all that stuff in play, now how do you make money with it? How do you add to your current live audience and make money with it? And we're slowly building that. We're still building it and hope to get it to, hundreds of people watching every week, as opposed to 30 or 40 watching every week. Did that answer your question at all?
Absolutely.
There was a question?
Okay.
We appreciate your time, guys. Since we're spooling down, guys, you've given us a full hour, and I can't thank you enough for your time. Let's see if we can get one or two last thoughts before you say thank you and sign off for the afternoon. So you have a company here that transitioned from never really using very much technology at all, except maybe having a video person or a photographer stop in and take pictures of their theatrical event that takes place once or twice or 3 times a week. They never need to worry about running a cable to a VCR or to an outlet. Then they had a transition to go fully virtual and understand how to create a television company online with video on demand sales. So you got these 2 nice young men on camera today willing to spend time with us to tell you about their history. Does anybody else have any questions about their path or their challenges or anything like that?
I want to know what the people that won't ask a question intend to do after they're done taking these classes. the classes.
So I think the dream for some of our students are to go into videography as part of their industry. Some of them want to do performance where they want to be in front of the camera and be newscasters. Some of the people here do have an interest in doing post-production video editing, but it's a mass communications department. So it's a giant shell. It's a little bit of filmmaking, a little bit of video making, a little bit of acting, a little bit of post-production, a little bit of storytelling, but inevitably it's finding mechanisms to pay your bills as an artist, right? And you guys have done the same by creating this venue for your division of art, right? Which is magic, and in all ways, magic in all ways. Anybody else?
Now,
have any
where are you
thoughts?
located? Where's the class located, Craig?
This college is York College of Pennsylvania, which is in York, PA. It's about 110 miles away from you.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Or 120 miles, way up the turnpike. So I'm up here a couple of days a week helping them with their curriculum up here. So I'm pleased and appreciative of the opportunity. So I'm an instructor in their mass comm department. Yeah. So these guys are like
Good to know.
Harrisburg, Lancaster sort of areas. It's within an hour of that.
There is a magic theater in the Lancaster area. I forget the name of it right now, but if you can't make it out to there, our shows are virtual.
Anybody else have any last thoughts for these guys? I can't tell you how difficult it is to ask two adults like these guys to carve out time out of their business to come in and spend time with us. So it's appreciated on my side that they spent time with us. They're doing right by me because I try to do right by them. So it is one hand scratches the other type thing. And we're here to help each other, of course, in our industry. So I'm thankful, Marty, and I'm thankful, Danny and Marty.
Thanks for
and
asking,
Marty.
Craig. We appreciate it.
In all obvious.
Always our pleasure.
And if nobody else has any further questions, or if you have any last thoughts, we'll do it now. Now, I guess I have one last thought. It would be great if when you do your online shows, a lot of people show up, like dozens or hundreds or thousands of people. What do you think in a capsule is the magic potion to make a lot of people show up? Is it the act? Like if you had control over an act, I mean, what is that magic?
Well, it is the act. If we had
Oh.
David Blaine at our theater, thousands of people would buy a ticket. So part of it is the act. Part of it is that magic, unfortunately, in the hierarchy of show business, magic is just above strippers in the perception of the American public. They don't realize that it can attain as high art as the Academy Award winning film if you see the right performer in the right venue. I've seen magic that has just been incredible, but people don't experience that. Marty mentioned their perception is the birthday party clown, David Copperfield. There's an incredible universe of performers in between that you hopefully will one day get a chance to see these people. We see them every week, and we could tell you that they're nothing short than astonishing, and some of the shows are absolutely incredible. But this is the art form that we deal in. We knew the limitations going in, and we accept it, and we're here to try to make it better and just share great magic with regular people.
Right, and if you want to drive the 100 miles in 2 weeks, we have one of the most extraordinary magicians on earth. His name is Garrett Thomas. Him and along with another guy named Cosmo. Garrett Thomas works behind the scenes for David Blaine. He's a magic consultant for many of the other top performers around the world. And he is a brilliant, brilliant performer. So if you wanted to make the drive down, and if anybody has interest in coming, we'll make sure you have discount tickets. You can talk to Craig if you wanted to come down to see those guys. And we'll have discount tickets for you to come see the show.
That's wonderful. We appreciate that. I'm actually on your site right now looking at Garrett, Thomas, and Cosmo, right? Magic Beyond Imagination?
Yes.
Yeah, we're looking at
Yes,
the
correct.
site right now, and I see it right there. Well, we appreciate that offer, and for the students that are in the class, if they had a loved one, they want to take their parents out to see a wonderful show, or if they want to take their their main squeeze out for a date. These are great times to go out, and it's completely different than anything you've ever seen before. So, guys, I once again, you've done this for York College of Pennsylvania once or twice before. And from the students from your college and from me personally, I want to thank you for your time. You've always been great friends, and I'm thankful for your effort today. If you guys have no
Our
further
pleasure.
questions, let's give these guys a round of applause.
Thanks for listening.
It's
Thanks,
difficult to
guys.
get
We'll see you
people-
down the road.
Marty, Danny, thank you so much. We'll talk later.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, we're checking out. I gotta take some calls.
Thanks so much again, guys.
You're welcome.
Thank you.